Hey everyone, thanks for tuning in to another video on the Stony River channel. Today I'd like to talk about a lightweight backpacking stove called the Jetboil, which is quite popular among ultralight backpacking enthusiasts and just campers in general. And basically, essentially what the Jetboil is just a cup, a bowl, a pot, all in one that has a kind of corrugated bottom that boils water very rapidly and fits on one of these kind of isobutane propane mix cylinders for the fuel source. So the Jetboil, and this is the Jetboil Flash, should emphasize that. That's the model. There are a number of older models that predate this one, and there's a lot of newer models that have since been produced, and this one is probably about 10 years old. So this is kind of the original Jetboil Flash. I think they have a Flash 2.0 that's kind of modified and maybe improved on that model, but this one is the original Jetboil Flash. And let's break it down. A rubberized kind of lid to it that actually has a couple holes in it for ventilation, and also like a sipping lid if you were to make coffee. And then if you open it up here, we have the Jetboil stabilizer, kind of like the stand or frame upon which it sits. When I say it, I mean I'm referring to the fuel canister, which I'll talk about more in a little bit. And then as we continue to empty the container, and that's the beauty of the Jetboil, is everything kind of nests inside of itself, makes it very compact, something that you could fit in a backpack. So that's the beauty of it. Here's kind of the almost like a stand upon which you could use an entirely separate structure, like a pan, a frying pan of sorts, and I'll kind of talk about that a little bit later as well. Basically, this can hold an alternative structure to the cup, pot, bowl that is the standard of the Jetboil. So we'll put this aside for now and revisit that component later. Here's the actual stove itself, which screws onto one of those isobutane propane mixture fuel canisters itself. And we'll talk about that later. But this is the actual stove itself. And then all that remains at this point is the cup, bowl, pot combo with neoprene jacketed exterior with handle. There's also a little sleeve here where you can stick a spork or a fork or a spoon, any kind of a utensil grabbing sleeve right on the exterior here. And then on the bottom of the pot, bowl, cup, this one's cracked because I've had it for 10 years, so there is a little bit of wear and tear on this one, but I've gotten a lot of good usage out of it. But this is basically it's a cover for the bottom, and then it's also can double as a measuring cup or a bowl. So there's that component as well that fits on the bottom. And those are basically the main components of the Jetboil Flash. This is one of the original ones. And it all nests together really nicely. Now, when we're talking about fuel canisters, the fuel that drives this stove is an isobutane propane fuel mix, and there are Jetboil branded fuel options available, but there are a number of other companies that make them too, and they come in different sizes. Excuse me. So here's a much bigger one, same fuel mixture, but this is made by MSR. So this is like the biggest you can get. The beauty of the smallest one is that it does nest right in the Jetboil itself. So you can just simply, and then you can fit all the other components in addition to one of those small fuel canisters in the Jetboil itself. So that affords you just kind of convenience, nesting, etc. So yeah, there's a number of different sizes and brands of the fuel canisters themselves, but they're essentially all the same fuel, and it's just a matter of how much how long are you going to be gone for and how much fuel you need. So let's set this up. I have everything kind of unpacked. I'm going to go with the smallest fuel cylinder in this demonstration, the one that actually nests really nicely inside the Jetboil itself. So we're just going to remove the lid from this small isobutane propane blended fuel cylinder. We're going to simply attach it to screw it onto the bottom of the actual stove component itself. All right, now we have the kind of the foundation of the stove itself attached, and you can see there is a valve here that allows the entrance of the fuel to the stove itself, as well as a push button start function here. Which may have seen better days, but we'll see if it works effectively all these years later. And then, so here's just, the fuel canister, the stove itself, just literally kind of attaches to the stove right there, and you just kind of turn it clockwise and it's locked into place. Once again, you have this kind of corrugated, corrugated structure here to increase the surface area and increase the efficacy of the stove. So we're gonna attach this again, and there is like a safety fill line, like do not fill above this. That's pretty clearly delineated on this. Now, I've filled it all the way up pretty much for the most part, but you probably want to just go by the guidelines, and you can see the line right there. That's the safe fill line. So we'll play it safe, and we'll time it. We'll see exactly how long it takes to boil water at that fill line. I mean, the Jetboils, what they're really used for is ultra lightweight backpacking when you're pretty much eating dehydrated food or freeze-dried food, such as Mountain House, etc., or you're using it for coffee or soup. It's really not made to like cook. So one of the main weaknesses is that you can't really simmer or do kind of the intricacies of cooking, but the beauty is that, and the name implies, is that it's got a rapid ability to boil water, hence the name Jetboil. So its beauty is that it's able to boil water very rapidly for, I guess, probably predominantly freeze-dried or dehydrated food options. And part of that is just the engineering of that corrugated bottom, the simplicity of the bulk up pot. We'll see how long it takes to boil the water at the appropriate fill line, and we'll do a little bit of an experiment, a time test, and we'll watch the thermally activated neoprene sleeve change colors, and so on and so forth. And with respect to the food option today, I'm not actually making freeze-dried food. I kind of save that because it's good for like 10 to 15 years or more, and I just kind of want to save that for an emergency. So I stopped by my friendly neighborhood Holiday gas station, and I purchased a classic chicken ramen noodle bowl. So that's what I'm going to make with it. I'm just going to fill the Jetboil to the fill line, see how long it takes to boil, pour it in here, and talk a little bit more about the pros and cons of such a backpacking or camping stove option. Alright, so I have the water at approximately the level of the recommended as the safe fill maximum volume, and I'm just going to try to utilize the push button start. So it's just simply, there's a valve here on the side, you just open it up, that'll let you'll hear a little hiss. We'll see if this push button start works. Alright, and now she's going. As you can hear, I'm going to cover it with its lid, and I'm going to set a timer, and we'll see. I'm going to open it all the way up, and we will see how long it actually takes it to heat this up to a boil before we add it to the ramen. So I placed the lid on top. We're going to set a timer right now. I should say a stopwatch. There it is. It's going. And we're going to see how long it takes to bring to a full boil, and then I'm going to add it to this ramen noodle dish. Now, I want to also just kind of emphasize or acknowledge the fact that it's cold. I mean, the structure I'm in right now is probably at like 40 degrees, and the efficacy and the efficiency of using that kind of isobutane propane fuel mixture in a Jetboil definitely is affected by temperature, and I would almost certainly say also affected by altitude. I'm at very low altitude right now, but I'm at a cold temperature. So it might take longer than I think to boil this. And I think also another factor to consider is the size of the fuel canister you're using, and perhaps also how full it is. I feel like temperature, size of fuel canister, and the degree to which it actually is, the capacity at which it still holds its fuel, really plays a driving factor in the speed of boiling. So now we're at 1 minute and 11 seconds. It's still not even close to being boiled, as far as I can tell. Maybe it is. It's steaming. But we'll see how long it actually takes to boil, and then we'll add it to this ramen meal. So basically, when you're talking Jetboils, they're the most useful, I would say, in the context of like ultralight backpacking, when you just need water to cook dehydrated or freeze-dried meals. You can't simmer them. It's kind of off or on. There's no... Oh, here we go. We're getting close. Maybe we're getting close. Let me see that. We're at 2 minutes now, so we're at the 2-minute mark at this moment, so... Like I said, it's affected by the temperature, and it's cold in here. And I keep opening the lid, so... But yeah, basically, like, Jetboils are useful for ultralight backpacking when you're just using... You just need water. You just need to add water to something. You can't really cook like you would on other stoves on them. We're getting very close to boilage. And Jetboils are pretty expensive. I mean, I feel like this one I've had for almost a decade or more, and I feel like it was somewhere in the $50 to $100 range, like maybe in the middle of that. Now they're like $115. That's crazy. So they've changed. There you can see it's going to start trembling. And you see the color change there too. See the yellow? So now it's boiling. We're going to stop it. I'm going to turn it off. So we were at about 317. So a little bit more than they advertised, but ultimately still a very rapid boil. Now let's add this boiling water to our ramen dish and eat some food. Very hungry. There we go. And then this will kind of just screw off. Just kind of grab it. And if the lid is secure, you can kind of utilize that little spout at the bottom there. I might going to spin that around actually a little bit, so I can use the handle. It's hot. Alright, so I'm just going to pour this in and kind of utilize that spout right here. So we'll just pour the water in. Enough to cover the noodles. And then we'll just cover it up with whatever remains. I kind of obliterated that. I might put the cardboard on top just to create a little bit of a seal on that. Yeah, another thing I want to mention is just like, if you consider this here, it's on the stand, it's mounted on the fuel canister, and then here's the stove part itself. They do have this other kind of optional thing that also nests in everything. It's almost kind of a platform that kind of clips onto here. There we go, kind of locks into place like that. If you turn it clockwise, and then you're able to kind of fit a pot or a pan on there. on this surface here, and then you can cook alternatively without using, you know, necessarily the standard Jetboil receptacle. So there is some versatility with that, and that's pretty cool. You can actually just use a regular frying pan or a pot. That's a little bit different shape or configuration as the standard Jetboil that comes with it, but you're still bounded by that limitation of the inability to kind of simp.
Let's take a look at the specifications with respect to weight of this item. So we're going to put the unit in terms of ounces. And let's just put the Jetboil unit all nested together minus the fuel canister. So keep in mind the fuel canister will add a significant amount of weight, but this is just everything stripped down minus the fuel canister all nested together. Throw on the scale, and it's about 17 ounces.
So thanks everyone for watching another video on the Stony River channel. This is the Jetboil Flash.